Right now in Scottsdale, it's 106 degrees.
So there you have it, spring day in Phoenix, and 106 degrees out here. We're going to be having a little bit of fun with history. I've been thinking, and I've been thinking about how we record what has happened in the past. So, how do we record this stuff? Well, I mean, traditionally it's always been text, right? Everything's been written down, going all the way back to when they were writing stuff on clay tablets. In my case, I have been really getting into, since I started doing the channel, I've been really getting into this concept of things other than text that are so important for historians in terms of interpreting what has happened over the years. So I've been focusing a lot on concepts like audio materials, or especially visual materials in history, because that's what really brings the ability for people to identify with whatever it was that was going on, whatever it is, a person, a place, an event. It's through that kind of visual and audio stuff that we are able to actually really identify with what happened and to see it for ourselves, to see it just like Lincoln's mole, which, it does appear on both sides of his face depending on which portrait you look at. So it is one mole indeed, but there's been some controversy. Why is it appearing sometimes on the left in photos, and why is it appearing sometimes on the right? And ultimately that comes down to the technology that they used for the pictures. Some of those pictures were taken with a technology that is sort of like a reverse or a mirror image, right? So it just reverses the side that his mole appears on. So anyways, it appears on the proper side today on the $5 bill, just for your information. And that is, I guess, an example, right? So let me give you some more examples of some of the stuff I'm talking about that's so cool. And the first one we'll do is going to be an audio resource, and this was discovered not that long ago. In the stuff, we might say, of when Thomas Edison, and somebody has recently gone through his stuff and discovered an audio recording that was captured by one of Edison's assistants. And that assistant somehow convinced a guy by the name of Otto von Bismarck to allow himself to be recorded speaking in several different languages. So what you're about to hear is Bismarck, I'm sure the most influential and well-known chancellor that Germany has ever had. And he is going to be talking in French, Latin, of course, his native German, and yes, you guessed it, he does speak at the start of the recording, which you'll hear, in the English language. So Bismarck says in English, and he's basically quoting a song that was quite known at that time in the US especially. And it reads, "In good old colony times, when we lived under the king, 3 roguish chaps fell into mishaps because they could not sing." So here is Bismarck saying just that on one of the earliest recordings that we have, and the only one that we have, of the voice of Otto von Bismarck.
Good old colony time, when we lived under a king, they all chaps fell into mishaps because they could not sing.
The next source that I'll show you is a very visual one, and it is the first, let's call it the first film that still exists today. We could even call it the first video that we still have to this day that I can show you here, and that is called Roundtree Gardens, I believe it is the name of this, and it's just a very short little thing, but basically you're going to see some people walking around in circles and doing a little bit of a dance, and they were just playing around with this new technology. So here it is, Roundtree Gardens. And you can see there how, again, it's just this technology. They're messing around with it. They're trying to create as much movement as they can, because this is the first time that you can actually capture that movement. Was in this era around 1888, 1889, when both of the Bismarck recording as well as this Rountree Gardens were made. So you can see there was a lot going on around that late 1880s period of time, perhaps a little bit similar to what's going on today, with things changing so quickly and people kind of playing around with stuff. So we're playing around with history today, and the last of the visual materials that I want to talk about is the still photos, because that really is probably after text. It is the photographs that we have. So many of them are just absolutely amazing for historians to look at, and for us to really get, again, that impression of what it was really like at that time, at that place. So I went through a whole list of famous photos through history, and I will provide that list, a link to it, down in the description. You can look for yourself, but I had to decide on just one that I thought was the most important, right? The one that I thought had the most to say. And I landed on Migrant Mother. So you might be able to imagine that one. You've probably seen it before, and it's on your screen now. The official version of it that everybody saw was a picture of a mom who is migrating west. And this family's in California. It is the middle of the Great Depression. It's the middle of the Dust Bowl period in the Midwest. So a lot of Californians today have their roots in places like Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, where this Dust Bowl and the economic depression kind of forced people to look west for their future, and that future for their families. And what you see in the picture, of course, is a mom who looks very concerned about the future, who's trying to figure out, what am I going to do just today to keep my family together and to keep us going? And it really captures that feeling of that whole era, and all of these people who were seeking a new life out west. And the last photo I want to show you is actually of part of the set of pictures that was taken of this woman and her family, but it's not one that you normally see, right? You normally see the famous one. This one that's on your screen now really tells, I think, a lot of the story in a sort of a bigger angle, a wider picture. You can see how this family is just living in sort of like a little, it's not even a tent. It's half of a tent. It's a lean-to. And they are in a field somewhere in California. And you might be interested to know that not only have they figured out who these people were, they have also figured out the location where this picture was taken. So that is pretty cool. It's one of the cool things about history, is when you record this stuff, you can use that information, whatever you've got, you can use it to try to figure out things about the people, things about the place that I find so interesting, and maybe you do too. So if you're into that kind of stuff, this might be a channel for you. I'd invite you to feel free to subscribe, take a look at some of the other history videos, and I will leave us with an image that I found when I was in the Alps, traveling in the Alps mountains. It's one of the most striking portrayals of a human being from long, long ago that I've ever come across. And I found this fellow along the wall of an old church in the Alps mountains. So we'll leave you with that one, wondering, who was this guy? What was he doing? We definitely get the idea that there was something special about him. So that's it for now, but until our next adventure, goodbye.